Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the massive council chamber and felt small. She always felt small here. The room stretched up so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Around her sat representatives from 47 different alien species. Some had fur, some had scales, some were made of living crystal that hummed with their own light, some floated in tanks of purple liquid. They were all older than humanity's entire space program. They were all looking at her like she was a child throwing a tantrum. "The answer is no," said President Zelnoth. The ancient being was made of blue crystal and had lived for 4,000 years. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "We will not authorize emergency action in the Vraxis system." Chen's hands shook. She forced them to be still. 14 billion people are going to die. The star is collapsing. We have maybe 2 months before the whole system becomes a death trap. "The Galactic Council does not make hasty decisions," Zelnoth replied. The crystal being's body pulsed with calm blue light. "We will form a committee to study the situation. We will gather data. We will consider all options. We will vote when we are certain." How long will that take? Chen already knew the answer. She had been Earth's ambassador for 12 years. She knew how the council worked. "Approximately 18 months, Zelnoth said. "Perhaps less if the data is clear." Chen looked around the chamber. Most of the aliens were nodding. To them, 18 months was nothing. Some of these species lived for thousands of years. Some of their governments had existed since humans were still living in caves. Time moved differently for them. But 14 billion living beings did not have 18 months. "Ambassador Chen," said another voice. This one belonged to Korvan, a reptilian species with red scales and 3 eyes. "Your species has only been in the council for 83 years. You are still learning our ways. Patience is the foundation of peace. Haste is the mother of war." Chen had heard this speech before. Different words, same meaning. Humanity was young. Humanity was reckless. Humanity did not understand how civilized species behaved. She thought about the Vraxis system. 3 different species lived there. They had cities floating in gas giants. They had farms on rocky moons. They had families. They had children. They had art and music and dreams. In 18 months they would all be dead. "Humanity offers to help," Chen said. She kept her voice steady. "We have 600 ships that can be converted for evacuation. We have the fastest FTL drives in known space. We can start rescuing people tomorrow." The chamber filled with clicking, buzzing, and humming sounds. The aliens were talking to each other. Chen's translator struggled to keep up. Most of what she heard was not good. "Unauthorized action," one voice said. "Breaking protocol," said another. "Typical human arrogance," said a third. Zelnoth raised one crystalline arm. The chamber went silent. "Ambassador Chen, the council appreciates Earth's enthusiasm. However, any evacuation must be planned carefully. It must follow proper procedures. It must be coordinated through official channels. We cannot have individual species acting alone. That is chaos. Chaos leads to conflict. Conflict leads to war. The council has maintained peace for 12,000 years because we follow the rules." Chen felt something break inside her. It was not anger exactly. It was not despair. It was the sound of a choice being made. A choice that would change everything. "Then Earth is leaving the council," she said. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens jumped to their feet or their tentacles or their hover platforms. The translator in Chen's ear screamed with overlapping voices. Through it all, she stood perfectly still. Zelnoth's crystal body flashed bright red. "Ambassador Chen, you do not have the authority to—" "I just spoke to my government," Chen lied. She had not. But she knew what they would say. She had known for years that this moment was coming. "Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We are done waiting for committees while people die." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her legs felt strange, like they belonged to someone else. Behind her, the chamber had gone completely silent. In 12,000 years, no species had ever voluntarily left the council. It was unthinkable. It was impossible. It was against every rule of civilized behavior. Chen did not care anymore. By the time she reached her ship, messages were flooding in from Earth. The government was panicking. The media was calling it the biggest diplomatic disaster in human history. Other ambassadors were demanding she return and apologize. Chen ignored them all. She opened a channel to the Human Fleet Command. "This is Ambassador Chen Wei," she said. Authorization code Alpha 77 Baker. All available ships are to proceed immediately to the Vraxis system. Begin evacuation operations. We are no longer bound by Council protocols. There was a pause. Then a voice responded. Understood, Ambassador. Fleet is moving. We'll be there in 6 hours. Chen closed the channel and sat down. Her hands were shaking again. She had just ended Earth's membership in the most powerful organization in the galaxy. She had turned humanity into outlaws. Future generations might call her a hero or a traitor. Right now, she did not know which one she was. But 14 billion people would have a chance to live. Across the galaxy, human ships began moving. Military vessels changed course. Commercial freighters volunteered to help. Even civilian ships with cargo holds started heading toward Vraxis. It was chaos. It was unplanned. It was exactly the kind of reckless behavior that made the Council think humans were dangerous. It was also the right thing to do. On Nexus Prime, President Zelnoth watched the human fleet movements on holographic displays. The ancient being's crystal body pulsed with colors that indicated confusion and concern. They are actually doing it, Korvan said. They are going to Vraxis without authorization. Convene an emergency session, Zelnoth ordered. Earth must be censured. They must be sanctioned. They must be taught that they cannot simply ignore Council law. But deep in the crystal being's ancient mind, a small thought formed, a thought that had not existed in thousands of years. What if the humans were right? Zelnoth pushed the thought away. Order was everything. Rules were sacred. The Council had maintained peace for 12,000 years by following procedure. One crisis, however tragic, did not justify throwing away millennia of stability. Still, the thought remained. In the depths of space, far from any inhabited world, something stirred. Something old. Something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. The breaking of the Council, the first crack in 12,000 years of rigid order, sent ripples through space itself. The ancient thing felt those ripples and began to wake. Captain Sarah Okonkwo had never seen anything like it. The Vraxis system was dying, and she was right in the middle of it. Her ship, the Defiant Hope, was just one of 600 human vessels that had arrived to help. Around her, the sky was filled with ships, military destroyers, cargo haulers, even a luxury cruise liner that had been converted into a refugee transport. It was beautiful chaos. Captain, we have another group on the southern continent, her communications officer reported. 30,000 people. They are trapped by rising radiation levels. Send the Newton and the Beijing, Sarah ordered, and tell them to hurry. That continent has maybe 3 hours before the radiation gets lethal. Yes, Captain. Sarah looked at the displays around her command chair. Every screen showed a different crisis. Too many people, not enough time. The star at the center of the system was collapsing faster than the Council's models had predicted. But then, the Council had not been planning to do anything for 18 months. Humans had been here for 6 days and had already rescued 2 million people. Captain, the Council is broadcasting on all frequencies, another officer said. They are ordering us to leave immediately. Ignore it, Sarah said. We are not part of the Council anymore. They have no authority over us. This was the part that felt strange. For 83 years, humanity had followed Council rules. They had asked permission. They had filled out forms. They had waited for approval. Now they were just acting. It felt wrong and right at the same time. Captain, we have a problem, her first officer said. The Koresh are refusing to evacuate. Sarah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The Koresh were one of the 3 species that lived in Vraxis. They were insect-like beings with hard shells and compound eyes. They were also extremely traditional. They believed that leaving their homeworld was a sin against their gods. How many Koresh are refusing? Sarah asked. All of them. 3 billion people. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see the dying star. It looked almost peaceful. Beautiful even. But it was killing everything in this system. Open a channel to the Koresh leaders, she said. A moment later, a face appeared on the screen. It was covered in green chitin and had 8 eyes. Human Captain, the Koresh leader said. We have told your people. We will not leave. This is our home. We will die here if that is the will of the gods. I respect your beliefs, Sarah said, but I am not going to let 3 billion people die if I can help it. You have no choice. We refuse your help, Sarah thought for a moment. This was not something she had been trained for at the academy. The Academy taught procedures and protocols. They did not teach you what to do when an entire species wanted to commit suicide because of religion. Tell me about your gods, Sarah said. The Koresh leader looked confused. What, your gods? The ones who want you to die here. Tell me about them. They are the creators of all things. They made the stars and the worlds. They made the Koresh to honor them. And these gods, do they want you to die? If they have decided that our son should die, then yes. We accept their will. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, but what if they did not decide that? What if your son is dying because of natural causes? What if your gods are testing you to see if you are smart enough to survive? The Koresh leader's antennae twitched. What do you mean? On Earth, we had a flood story. A great flood that covered the world. A man named Noah built a boat and saved his family and many animals. He did not just sit there and drown because the flood came, he acted. Maybe your God sent us here to give you a boat. It was a desperate argument. Sarah did not know if it would work. But she had to try. The Koresh leader was silent for a long time. I must consult with the other leaders, it finally said. We will give you an answer in 2 days. You have 6 hours, Sarah said. After that, the radiation will be too strong. I'm sorry, but that is not my choice. That is physics. The channel closed. Sarah sat down again. Her hands were shaking slightly. Captain, even if they agree, how do we evacuate 3 billion people in 6 hours? Her first officer asked. I have no idea, Sarah admitted. But we'll figure it out. That was becoming humanity's motto. We'll figure it out. 4 hours later, the Koresh agreed to evacuate. Sarah immediately called every human ship in the system. They worked together with a speed and flexibility that would have horrified the Council. There was no formal plan, no committee meetings, just people making decisions and trusting each other. Military ships landed in cities and loaded tens of thousands of Koresh at a time. Cargo ships opened their holds. The cruise liner packed people into swimming pools and ballrooms. It was messy. It was dangerous. It was probably breaking 100 safety regulations, but it worked. By the time the radiation reached lethal levels, 2.8 billion Koresh were safely off the planet. The remaining 200 million had chosen to stay. Sarah mourned them, but she understood. Some people could not leave their homes even to save their lives. Over the next 41 days, humanity evacuated 11.2 billion people from the Vraxis system. It was the largest rescue operation in galactic history. 3 species were saved from extinction. The Galactic Council was furious. Selnoth called an emergency session. Every member species attended. The crystalline president stood at the center of the chamber, and its body glowed with angry red light. Earth has violated every principle of the Council, Selnoth declared. They acted without authorization. They ignored our commands. They disrupted the natural order. We have no choice but to impose sanctions. The vote was unanimous. Earth was declared a rogue state. Trade with humanity was forbidden. Any species that helped humans would face consequences. Human ships were banned from Council space. Ambassador Chen, watching the broadcast from Earth, felt numb. She had expected this, but it still hurt. You saved 14 billion lives, her assistant said. That has to count for something. Tell that to the people who are going to lose their jobs when the trade sanctions hit, Chen replied. But across the galaxy, something strange was happening. The species that had been rescued from Vraxis were grateful. Very grateful. 3 species publicly announced. They were leaving the Council to form an alliance with Earth. Other species began quietly asking if humanity needed any help. The Galactic Council's perfect order was starting to crack. And in the depths of space, the ancient thing that had been waking up was now fully awake. It looked at the galaxy with senses that no living being could comprehend. It saw the Council's rigid structure. It saw the chaos that humanity had introduced. It saw that the time had come. Somewhere in Council space, a star blinked out. Then another. Then another. Communication networks failed. Ships disappeared. Ancient defense systems activated without warning. The cascade had begun. Dr. James Okafor stared at the data and felt his blood run cold. He had been studying the anomalies for 3 weeks now. Strange energy readings across the galaxy. Stars behaving in ways that made no sense. Communication networks failing for no reason. At first he thought it was just random problems. Equipment failures. Natural disasters. Bad luck, but it was not random. There was a pattern. Run the simulation again, he told his computer. Show me the timeline. The holographic display lit up above his desk. It showed the galaxy as a web of lights. Each light was a star system. Each line was a connection between systems. For 12,000 years, those connections had been stable, perfect, unchanging. Then Earth left the Council, and one by one the connections started breaking. It is like dominoes, James muttered. One falls and hits the next. His assistant, a young woman named Sarah Park, looked over his shoulder. You think Earth leaving caused this? No, James said. I think Earth leaving was the trigger. But the gun was already loaded. He pulled up more data. Historical records from the Council's archives. Energy readings going back thousands of years. The pattern was there if you knew how to look for it. The Council's perfect order had not been maintaining peace. It had been building pressure. Like a dam holding back a river, Earth had cracked the dam. We need to tell someone, Sarah said. Who? James asked. The Council thinks we are criminals. Our own government is dealing with trade sanctions and economic collapse. Who is going to listen to a scientist saying the universe is breaking? But someone did listen. Ambassador Chen saw James's report and immediately understood what it meant. She forwarded it to every contact she had. Most ignored her, but a few did not. Zelnoth was one of them. The ancient crystalline being stood in its private chamber and read the human scientist's report. At first, Zelnoth wanted to dismiss it. Human science was primitive. Human thinking was chaotic. But the data was solid. The pattern was undeniable. The Council had been wrong. For 12,000 years, the Council had believed that strict order created stability. They had created rules for everything. Every species followed the same protocols. Every problem was solved through committee. Every decision required consensus. It had seemed perfect, but it was not perfect. It was a cage, and the universe did not like cages. Zelnoth called an emergency session. The chamber filled with ambassadors from all 47 member species. Well, 44 now. 3 had left to join Earth. We face a crisis, Zelnoth announced. The anomalies are not random. They are connected. The galaxy itself is rejecting our order. Many of the ambassadors made sounds of disbelief. How could the galaxy reject anything? The universe did not have opinions. It followed physical laws. The humans have a theory, Zelnoth continued. They believe our rigid structure has prevented natural change. Evolution requires variation. Adaptation requires chaos. We have suppressed both for thousands of years. Now the pressure is releasing all at once. This is human nonsense, Corvon hissed. The reptilian ambassador's scales flushed dark red with anger. They break our laws, destroy our peace, and now they blame us for the consequences. But even as Corvon spoke, alarms started blaring. 3 more star systems had just gone dark. Not died, just dark. Cut off from all communication. When Council ships arrived to investigate, they found the systems completely abandoned. Millions of people had simply vanished. The crisis was accelerating. Captain Sarah Okonkwo was halfway across the galaxy when she got the distress call. A Council enforcement fleet was trapped in an anomaly field, some kind of space distortion that was tearing their ships apart. They needed help immediately. Should we respond? Her first officer asked. They are the ones who declared us criminals. Sarah looked at the message. 50 ships. 20,000 crew members, all about to die because of something nobody understood. Set course for their position, she said. Maximum speed. Captain, the Council will probably just arrest us when we get there. Then they arrest us, Sarah said. But we are not going to let people die just because their government is stupid. The Defiant Hope arrived at the anomaly field 30 minutes later. Space itself looked wrong there. Colors that should not exist, shapes that hurt to look at. The Council ships were caught in the center, being slowly pulled apart by forces that made no sense. Scan the field, Sarah ordered. Find me a pattern. Her science officer worked quickly. Captain, there is no pattern. At least not one that follows normal physics. It is like reality is having a nightmare. Sarah thought about that. A nightmare, random, chaotic, unpredictable. Everything the Council had spent 12,000 years trying to prevent. What if we do not fight it? She said. What if we work with it? Captain, I do not understand. The Council tries to impose order on everything, Sarah explained. But you cannot impose order on chaos. You have to ride it, like surfing a wave. She had no idea if this would work, but she ordered her pilot to take them into the anomaly field anyway. Instead of fighting the distortions, they let the ship move with them. They adapted. They improvised. They did things that would have made any council captain faint with horror, and it worked. The defiant Hope reached the trapped council ships and started pulling them out one at a time. It was dangerous. It was messy. Sarah's ship took damage that would require weeks of repairs. But they saved all 50 ships. The council fleet commander was a Cathari, a species that looked like floating jellyfish made of light. "You saved us," it said, "even though we are enemies." "You are not our enemy," Sarah replied. "Your government is being stupid. That is different." The Cathari commander was silent for a moment. Then it said something that would change everything. "Perhaps our government has been stupid for a very long time." Word of the rescue spread quickly. Across council space, species started questioning their leaders. Why had they sanctioned Earth? Why had they let the Vraxis people almost die? Why were they so afraid of change? The council's perfect unity was cracking. Meanwhile, on a dead planet at the edge of known space, an archaeological team made a discovery. They had been excavating ruins that were over 15,000 years old. The ruins belonged to a species that nobody had heard of before. The team leader, a Solvene scientist named Draknor, found a chamber deep underground. Inside was a machine, still functioning after 15,000 years, and it was broadcasting a message. Draknor translated the message and felt the ground disappear beneath its feet. The message was from the progenitors, the ancient species that had created the Galactic Council. Everyone thought the progenitors had just wanted peace. But the message told a different story. The Council was not meant to create permanent peace. It was meant to be temporary. A stabilizer after a great war. It was supposed to last only 5,000 years. Then it was supposed to dissolve, allowing the galaxy to evolve naturally. But the Council had lasted 12,000 years. More than twice as long as intended, and now the galaxy was paying the price. "The Council has to know about this," Draknor said. "The Council will suppress it," one of the other scientists replied. "This message destroys everything they believe in." "Then we send it to everyone," Draknor decided. "The Council, Earth, every species. Let them all know the truth." The message went out across the galaxy, and with it the last of the Council's authority crumbled. Selnoth stood alone in its chamber and felt something it had not felt in 4,000 years. Fear. Admiral Marcus Stone stood in the war room on Earth and looked at the holographic map of the galaxy. Red lights showed where the cascade was spreading. There were a lot of red lights. "Too many. How long do we have?" he asked. 3 months, Dr. James Okafor replied. "Maybe 4. After that, the cascade reaches critical mass. Reality itself starts breaking down. Not just in pockets, everywhere. And the Council's plan? They are still forming committees," Ambassador Chen said bitterly. "They want to study the problem. Build models. Reach consensus. They will still be having meetings when the universe ends." Marcus nodded slowly. He had fought in 3 wars. He had seen terrible things, but nothing scared him as much as this. The Council, with all its ancient wisdom and technology, was paralyzed. And humanity, the youngest and weakest species, had to somehow save everyone. "We have a plan," James said. "It is crazy. It will probably not work, but it is better than nothing." "Let me hear it," Marcus said. James pulled up a new set of data. "The cascade is not destruction. It is correction. The universe is trying to return to a natural state. The Council has been suppressing that state for 12,000 years. We cannot stop it, but maybe we can guide it." "Guide chaos," Marcus said. "That sounds impossible." "Humans have been doing it for our entire history," James replied. "We do not build perfect systems. We build systems that can adapt, that can change, that can survive mistakes. The Council built a crystal palace. We need to show them how to build something that can bend without breaking." Chen leaned forward. "The problem is we need the Council's cooperation. We need their resources, their knowledge, their infrastructure. But they have declared us enemies. Then we need to change their minds," Marcus said. "Fast." The opportunity came sooner than expected. Nexus Prime, the Council's capital station, came under attack from the cascade. Reality distortions appeared inside the station itself. Whole sections simply stopped existing. Gravity failed in some areas and tripled in others. Time moved at different speeds in different corridors. The Council could not stop it. Their technology was built for order and predictability. This was neither. Zelnoth stood in the emergency command center and watched its perfect capital fall apart. All around, ambassadors were panicking. Some were evacuating. Some were praying to their gods. Some were just frozen with fear. Then a message came through. From Ambassador Chen. "We can help you," the human said. "But you need to trust us." Zelnoth looked at the chaos spreading through the station. Everything the council believed in was failing. Maybe it was time to try something they did not believe in. "What do you need?" Zelnoth asked. "Access to your central systems," Chen replied, "and a promise that you will follow our instructions without debating them." Every instinct in Zelnoth's ancient mind screamed against this. Let humans control the council's most important station? Let them act without oversight? It was unthinkable, but the alternative was death. "You have access," Zelnoth said. "Save us." Humanity moved fast. Engineers from Earth arrived on Nexus Prime within hours. They did not try to restore order. Instead, they installed systems that could adapt to chaos, flexible power grids that rerouted automatically, structural supports that could shift and change, emergency protocols that did not require committee approval. It was ugly. It was inefficient. It definitely did not meet council building codes, but it worked. Within 2 days, Nexus Prime was stable. Not perfect, not orderly, but stable. The cascade was still there, but the station had learned to surf it just like Captain Okonkwo's ship had. "This is unacceptable," Korvan declared at an emergency council session. "Look at what they have done to our capital. It looks like human chaos." "It looks like survival," Zelnoth replied. The crystalline being's body glowed with a color that no one had seen before. Purple, the color of change. "Ambassador Chen, present your full plan." Chen stood before the council. The same council that had sanctioned Earth. The same council that had called humanity reckless and dangerous. But now they were listening. "We cannot restore the old order," Chen said. That order was the problem. "Instead, we need to build something new, something that can adapt. We call it chaos management." She displayed a holographic model. "We identify the worst cascade zones. Instead of fighting them, we use controlled destabilization. We create smaller cascades to relieve pressure before it builds too high. We set up flexible response teams that can act immediately without waiting for approval. We accept that we cannot predict everything and prepare for surprises." "You are asking us to abandon everything we have built," an ambassador said. "No," Chen replied. "I am asking you to remember that you built it for a reason. To protect life. To enable cooperation. Those goals do not change. But the methods might need to." The debate went on for hours. The council was torn. Half wanted to accept the human plan. The other half, led by Korvan and the militaristic Krenak Empire, refused. "This is weakness," Korvan declared. "The galaxy respects strength, order, discipline. If we follow the human path, we show that we are soft. Other species will take advantage. There will be war. There will be no galaxy left to have wars in," Chen shot back. "The Cascade does not care about your military strength." But the Krenak Empire was not convinced. They saw the crisis as an opportunity. With the council weakened, they could seize power. They could impose their own vision of order. A militaristic order based on strength rather than consensus. Krenak ships began moving to strategic positions. They claimed it was for security. But everyone knew what it really was. Acute Admiral Marcus Stone watched the Krenak fleet movements from Earth. "They are going to try to take over," he said. "Right in the middle of the Cascade crisis. Can we stop them?" Chen asked over the communication link. "Maybe," Marcus said, "but it would mean war. Right when we need to be working together." "Then we need a third option," Chen said. That option came from an unexpected source. Captain Sarah Okonkwo had been studying the Cascade data. She had noticed something that everyone else had missed. The Cascade was strongest near the galactic core, and it was getting stronger. "I think there is something at the center," Sarah told James Okafor. "Something that is causing all of this." "The core is impossible to reach," James replied. "The gravitational forces alone would crush any ship." "Then we need to be creative," Sarah said. She assembled a volunteer crew. Not just humans. The Cathari commander she had saved joined. So did several Vraxis refugees. Even a Koresh scientist who wanted to thank humanity for saving its people. "You are all insane," her first officer said. "Going into the galactic core during a reality-breaking crisis. This is how people die." "Probably," Sarah agreed. "But it is also how people save the galaxy." So who is coming? Every single crew member volunteered. The Defiant Hope began its journey toward the core. Behind them, the Krenak Empire prepared for war. The Council argued about what to do. The cascade continued to spread. And at the heart of the galaxy, something ancient waited. The Defiant Hope shook violently as it entered the galactic core. Outside the windows, space looked wrong. Stars were too close together. Black holes warped light into impossible shapes. And everywhere the cascade danced like lightning made of broken reality. I am reading gravitational forces that should not exist, Sarah's science officer reported, and energy signatures that match nothing in our database. Keep going, Sarah ordered. We did not come this far to turn back. In the crew quarters, the mixed species team worked together. Humans operated the controls. The Cathari used its unique senses to navigate the cascade. The Koresh scientist analyzed data with compound eyes that could see more spectrum than human eyes. Everyone had a role. Captain, I am detecting a structure ahead, the Cathari navigator said. Artificial. Very large. Very old. The structure appeared on their screens. It was massive, larger than a planet, and it was built from materials that should not exist. Crystalline walls that glowed with their own light. Geometric shapes that hurt to look at because they had too many dimensions. This is progenitor technology, the Koresh scientist said with awe. The species that built the council. What is it doing here? Sarah asked. I think we are about to find out. The Defiant Hope moved closer. As they approached, the structure came to life. Lights activated. Systems that had been dormant for thousands of years began humming with power. And then a door opened. Sarah made a decision that would either save or doom them all. Take us inside. The ship entered the structure and landed in a chamber that could have held 100 ships. As soon as they landed, holographic images appeared. They showed the progenitors. Tall beings made of energy and light. They looked kind but also sad. Greetings, young species, the hologram said. If you are seeing this message, then the cascade has begun. We apologize. We never meant for things to go this far. The message explained everything. The progenitors had fought a terrible war that almost destroyed the galaxy. After the war, they built the Council as a way to prevent future conflicts. It was meant to heal the galaxy, to give species time to recover, to establish peace. But it was only supposed to last 5,000 years. We programmed a shutdown mechanism, the hologram explained. After 5,000 years, the Council was supposed to dissolve. The galaxy would return to natural evolution. Change, growth, conflict, yes, but also progress. Life requires both order and chaos. But the Council did not dissolve, Sarah said to her crew. They kept it going. The hologram continued. If the Council lasted too long, pressure would build. The galaxy would correct itself forcefully. That correction is the cascade. We built this facility as a last resort, a way to guide the correction, to make sure civilization survives the transition. A control panel appeared in front of Sarah. Instructions appeared in her mind, directly from the machine. She understood what she had to do. This machine will complete the cascade, she said. It will end the Council's rigid order. But it will also establish a new framework, one based on flexibility and adaptation. The galaxy will still have structure, but it will be able to change. What is the cost? Her first officer asked. Sarah looked at the readings. The energy release will be massive. Any rigid systems will collapse. Ships built for perfect order will fail. Infrastructure that cannot adapt will break. Anyone who cannot handle change will not survive. So the Krenak Empire and their rigid military structure, the Cathari said. Probably, Sarah agreed, along with any species that has become too dependent on Council systems. It was a terrible choice. Activate the machine and save the galaxy, but kill billions who could not adapt. Or do nothing and watch the cascade destroy everything anyway. How long do I have to decide? Sarah asked. According to these readings, the cascade will reach critical mass in 3 hours, her science officer reported. After that, the decision will not matter. Everything will collapse anyway. Sarah opened a channel to Earth, to Ambassador Chen, to Admiral Stone, to everyone. She explained the situation. She explained the choice. You cannot make this decision alone, Chen said. This affects everyone. Then we vote, Sarah replied. Full democracy. Contact every species. Every government, ask them. 3 hours should be enough time. It was chaos. Messages flew across the galaxy. Governments argued. Species debated. Some wanted to activate the machine. Some wanted to find another way. Some just wanted more time to think. Meanwhile, the Krenak Empire made its move. Their fleet surrounded Nexus Prime. They demanded that the Council surrender to their authority. They claimed only military strength could save the galaxy. "You have 1 hour to comply," the Krenak Admiral broadcast, "or we will open fire." Zelnoth stood on Nexus Prime and felt tired. So tired. 4,000 years of life, 12,000 years of Council history, all of it ending in fire and chaos. "Should we surrender?" another ambassador asked. Before Zelnoth could answer, another fleet appeared. A human fleet led by Admiral Marcus Stone. But they were not alone. The 3 species that had left the Council came with them. So did the Cathari, and the Sylvian, and a dozen other species who were tired of the old ways. "Krenak Empire, stand down," Marcus broadcast. "You will not take control through force." "You cannot stop us humans," the Krenak Admiral replied. "You are weak, chaotic, undisciplined." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But we are not alone." The vote came in. Across the galaxy, species had made their choice. 67% voted to activate the machine. 33% voted against or did not respond. It was not unanimous. It was not perfect. But it was a decision. Sarah Okonkwo placed her hand on the control panel. "For everyone who wants a chance to grow," she said, and activated the machine. The cascade transformed. Instead of random destruction, it became directed change. Energy poured through the galaxy in waves. Every rigid system was tested. The Krenak fleet, with its perfect military order and inflexible hierarchy, could not adapt. Their ships broke apart. Not violently, they just stopped working. Their crews survived, but their weapons did not. The Council's central computers, designed for unchanging protocols, failed. But the new adaptive systems that humans had installed kept working. Nexus Prime survived. Across the galaxy, species faced the same test. Those who could adapt survived. Those who were too rigid collapsed. It was not fair. It was not kind. But it was natural. When the transformation was complete, the galaxy had changed. The Council no longer existed as a central authority. Instead, it became a network. Species could join or leave freely. Decisions were made locally, not by universal committee. Rules were flexible, adapted to local needs. It was messier than before. There would be conflicts, mistakes, arguments, but there would also be growth, evolution, progress. 6 months later, Ambassador Chen stood at a new meeting place. Not Nexus Prime, but a station built by multiple species working together. Earth, the Cathari, the Vraxis refugees, the Koresh, and many others. They called it the Free Systems Alliance. Zelnoth visited the station. The ancient crystalline being's color had changed permanently to purple. The color of change. "We spent 12,000 years building a perfect machine," Zelnoth said. "You taught us that life is not meant to be perfect. It is meant to grow." "We did not save the galaxy," Chen replied. "We just reminded it how to save itself." "And now?" Zelnoth asked. "What happens now?" Chen looked out at the ships outside. Dozens of species, hundreds of ships, all moving in a pattern that looked like chaos but was actually coordination. Free. Flexible. Alive. "Now we figure out what comes next," Chen said. "Together, without knowing exactly how it will work, just like humans have always done." "Terrifying," Zelnoth said. "Yes," Chen agreed, "but also beautiful." Captain Sarah Okonkwo returned to Earth a hero, but she did not see herself that way. She had just done what needed to be done, what any human would have done. On the Defiant Hope's bridge, she looked at her mixed-species crew. They had been through hell together. They had saved the galaxy together, and now they were getting ready for the next mission. "Where to, Captain?" her first officer asked. Sarah smiled. The galaxy was open now, free, full of possibilities and dangers and wonders, just the way it should be. "Everywhere," she said. "We have a whole galaxy to explore, and it finally has room for us to be ourselves." The Defiant Hope launched from Earth and headed into the unknown. Behind it, thousands of other ships followed. Human and alien, working together, learning together, growing together. The cosmos was no longer collapsing into disorder. It was expanding into possibility. And at the heart of it all, humanity had taught the galaxy its most important lesson. Order is comfortable, but chaos is alive.